Back now on Race for the White House, I'm David Gregory. The point today, act quickly or it's only going to get worse. That was Fed Chairman Ben Bernanke's message to Congress today, the first of 2 days of congressional hearings on the $700 billion bailout plan. He painted a grim picture of what we as a country might be facing if Congress does not act soon.
The financial markets are in quite fragile condition, and I think absent a plan, they will certainly get worse. I believe if the credit markets are not functioning, that jobs will be lost, the unemployment rate will rise, more houses will be foreclosed upon, GDP will contract.
So are we at a risk of another recession? One of the big questions coming out of this hearing today. Joining me now for a better understanding on what it all means, what's happening on Wall Street, Aaron Burnett, anchor of CNBC's Street Signs and Squawk on the Street programs. Aaron, good to see you after a long day of covering these hearings. I know in some of your coverage this afternoon, you got into the question, you interviewed Barney Frank, among others, and got into the question of what it's going to take to get agreement on this bill. Barack Obama is going to probably influence a lot of Democrats on this score, and he talked this afternoon about his conditions for supporting a bailout. Let's watch that.
First, the plan must include protections to ensure that taxpayer dollars are not used to further reward the bad behavior of irresponsible CEOs on Wall Street. Second, the power to spend $700 billion of taxpayer money cannot be left to the discretion of one man. Third, if taxpayers are being asked to underwrite hundreds of billions of dollars to solve this crisis, they must be treated like investors. Fourth, the final plan must provide help to families who are struggling to stay in their homes.
All right, so what's he really going to get? What are Democrats and Republicans who oppose this, for that matter, going to get out of all that?
You know, this is an incredible moment, David, and I was watching your coverage today as well. You come with the biggest bailout in American history, and the plan for it was 2.5 pages. I mean, you know, we're used to legislation being hundreds of pages, and, you know, this might be when it's done. But, I mean, that's how little a sense we had of what the Treasury Department wanted. So everyone's trying to push for certain elements in there. I think one of the things Barack Obama spoke about there was help for people facing foreclosure. It appears certain that in some way, shape, or form, that will be a part of the bill. Some of the Democrats, as you know, have been pushing for the ability to amend bankruptcy court rulings for people facing foreclosure. We'll see what we get there, probably something. But the big issue is the thing that he mentioned first, and the thing that I spoke about with Congressman Frank today, CEO compensation. There are some on both sides of the aisle, and as you've reported, John McCain has talked about this, saying if you want to put your bad assets in our pool, you got to take limits on compensation. That is something that Hank Paulson has desperately tried to prevent from being part of the legislation. And that is going to be a fascinating one, because you heard Chairman Frank saying he won't vote for it and doesn't think it'll pass unless that gets in there. That could be a key sticking point. And in terms of that investor stake point you raised, that's a fascinating one. In some way, shape, or form, the Democrats will get that. Some of the Republicans support that as well. It's unclear how it will be structured, but they'll find some way for taxpayers to get some stake in the banks. And that's about as specific as I can be right now.
Here's the thing that is complicating to me is that both sides in this debate, Republicans and Democrats, they want some fairness for the taxpayer. And there really isn't going to be any fairness. I mean, the way this seems to work, as I understand it, is that the government's saying to the taxpayer, okay, loan me a bunch of money, a lot of money, $700 billion. And what we're going to do with that money is that we're going to buy these bad assets that are dragging down these banks and really preventing them from lending money or getting loans. So they're not really able to do business. But we're going to have to pay for this bad stuff. We're going to have to pay more money than it's actually worth, because if we don't do that, they're not going to get healthy. There's nothing fair about that. But that's actually the debate that's going on about how much do you actually pay for this junk?
Right. Well, and you just nailed it on the head. That is the most important question. And David, the bet that Hank Paulson is trying to convince the American people to take is this. He says, look, you're right. The market price right now, banks won't sell it at that price. But he believes, as do most people in finance, that these assets in a full, fair, calm market would be worth more. Most people in this country, as a matter of fact, more than 90% of them pay their mortgages. Right now, a lot of this mortgage debt is behaving as if most people don't pay their mortgages. So that's the fine line they're trying to say. They're saying the current price in the market is really unfair. They don't know what the right price is, and that does come down to the question. But that's the fine needle that they're trying to thread to tell the taxpayer, look, we'll pay more than it's worth today, but one day it might be worth more than you paid for it, Mr. Taxpayer, and we'll give you a piece of that upside.
Okay, we'll keep watching. Aaron Burnett from CNBC. Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
All right, good to be with you, David.